Welcome to live chat. Remember you to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Got it. All right. So we now have 2 live feeds up on my channel. This is number 3 because the YouTube app is completely trashed. And what's crazy is I actually just upgraded this. Little Viking will try it for maybe the 3rd time's a charm. I don't know. Let's start with how's the audio? Is the audio good? Big Rich, how are you, man? Much better. Good. Okay. This is so insanely annoying. Yeah, let's hope this one works, Barb. So I got an email and had some conversation with a person that's like it's a dispatching service. Does that make sense? Dispatching service. And it was regarding a couple of the videos, and they sort of and so the message was that was what the whole point of playing poker, and then literally covering up the cards so we can't see, right? Covering up the cards so we can't see, and just betting blindly, right? Because I know this, and I think it was shocking for this person as well. And so what was shocking for this person was, listen, we manage about 20 some odd trucks, right? And he said, as we have conversations with drivers coming in, drivers say, hey, look, I'm looking to go here or there, and I want to make this per week or whatever. He said one guy told him that he's got to make $7,000 a week, and he's like, it's probably not going to happen running dry van, in February. Like, that's probably not realistic. But what's interesting was the question that the person asked was not how much revenue they wanted to turn. They said, what's your cost per mile, right? And the response was, I need to make $7,000 in a week. And so the dispatcher was like, nobody here in our team is going to get you probably $7,000 a week. What is your cost per mile? And the point was, this individual said, not a single driver knows their cost per mile. That's no different than sitting down at a poker table, not looking at the cards and just throwing chips in left and right for any denomination. I mean, you might as well just take your stacks of chips and mix them all up and not even look at cards and just throw them in. Because it's no different. And that sounds so stupid, right? I mean, playing poker, that's poker stars, it's fake money, it's not real money, right? I would never bet whatever it was, $100,000 without looking. So it's fake money, but it's like, you're doing the exact same thing, but as if it's real money because that's your business. And that is like legitimate, straight up. That's how these people are running their business. And it's not just these people, these are like our peers. These are people that are out there leaving their families, going to, think about it. Think about all those drivers that are caught up in the northern third of the country. I mean, it's not just dangerous up there. I mean, some of those places, it's deadly, right? I mean, guys are running, trucks are freezing up. Highway Patrol is having to go by and pluck drivers out of their trucks to keep them from freezing to death. Pretty scary situation, honestly. But man, it's a really dangerous way to run a business. And here's the other thing that, as we were having conversations about this, is the dispatcher said that that people at their dispatching service will get calls from drivers, and when they talk about loads, all the driver cares about is that the first number in that load is a 2. Right? They could be sending them to Florida, but if they're getting $2.01 on loaded miles, right? And let's have this conversation really quick. Everybody, a lot of people, maybe there's some people that are new that don't understand the difference between loaded miles and all miles, okay? Let's say that you deliver to Oklahoma City, but yet your next load is going to come out of, I don't know, whatever, Tulsa. And that load's going to go from, Tulsa to Orlando. I don't know, pick a place. Right? So loaded miles is going to be Tulsa to Orlando. Right? All miles is going to be, well, you started in Oklahoma City, you deadheaded all the way over to Tulsa, and then you went to Orlando, so that's all miles. And what this person said is when they communicate to the drivers, this dispatcher said they're having their people talk in terms of all miles now, because drivers aren't paying close attention to, they just care about the rate. All they care, if it says $2, that's all they care about. They'll go anywhere. And what they're saying is, this is, some of these guys, a lot of these guys are dispatching themselves as right? They have a dispatching service, but they also book themselves. And so they're booking loads going into places, and then yeah, they're getting $2 a mile and they're thinking that's good, but man, they're going into a really, really bad area. Same thing that we talk about often as well. They're not being cognizant, or they're not paying attention of the amount of time that's on a run. So again, guys, it's no different than just playing poker for money, for your money, for real money, blindly. And that is such a really dangerous way to run the business. Now, here's the thing. This individual said, look, I've been in the industry for a while. I just didn't know it was as prevalent as it was. And he says, as we are bringing on, by the way, right, dispatching services, this is kind of, these guys are starting to trend upwards. Their business is improving. Why? Because rates are so bad. And so guys are willing to try to get help, seek help. And I'm telling you, I think that's good. I think it's good to be seeking help. I just think that some of the most important help that drivers can be seeking is understanding the absolute most fundamental part of their business, which is knowing what their costs are, right? Once you know your costs are, then you can begin to determine, is $2 a mile good? And then, then you understand all miles. And then you begin to understand things like, situations of what are good areas and what are bad areas and that sort of thing. I was talking to a broker today. Here's a quick example. This run, where did it pick? It was Denver to Portland, but it went Denver to, maybe the first stop was like in Idaho. There was like 2 or 3 stops in Washington. Then it came back down to Portland and finaled in Clackamas. It was a 5-day run. It was, I think it was like 1,500 miles. Don't quote me on the math, I can't remember. I think it was like 1,500 miles. Yes, it was like 1,500 miles because, I told the broker, I said, let me think about this for a few minutes and I'll call you back. So I did my math and all this sort of stuff. And, in this situation, right, this is a really bad run for a company driver. Now, some of the times what we do is we'll look at this sort of situation and we say, okay, do we want to pay the driver like a guaranteed mileage for running, like 600 miles a day, and then try to parse this load out so that the drivers win and that we as a company win, right? So that's what I did. So I went away for a few minutes and I crunched some numbers, and I called the broker back and I said, here's our rate, right? And the broker said, oh man, no, we're miles apart. He said, we want to be at $3,000. It's a 5-day run, right? 5-day run, and they wanted to pay $3,000. And the broker said this, look, we were hoping to pay like $2 a mile, right? And it's like 1,500 miles. And I said, right. I said, but do you understand that you're trying to keep a truck captive for 5 days and run it 1,500 miles? And he's like, look, my max is like $3,500. So if you think about that from a broker standpoint, the broker doesn't understand the situation, or he does, and he just doesn't simply care. He's wanting to try to steal somebody, somebody's truck for 5 days. But in this case, here's how this guy is thinking. This is how a lot of drivers think sometimes, guys. 1,500 miles, and I'm going to get $100 a stop. So I'm going to get $2 a mile plus I'm going to get $100 a stop, $3,500. Man, that's a smoking deal. It's a smoking deal if your costs are like if everything is paid for and you're like insanely running an insanely profitable truck. If you're like 99% of the trucks out there that you have a truck payment or a trailer payment, that's a horrible deal. I mean, running $3,500 in a week on 1,500 miles, that is not a profitable run. There's no way, right? There's no way. So there's a really big difference, guys, in how people are running their businesses. And it's not just shocking to me, it's shocking to other people as well. And the longer I guess I'm on YouTube, or the more conversations I have, the more shocked I am And I think the more other people are being shocked, especially this time of year when freight is so tough and it's so critical to know your cost. I swear, my opinion is that 90 to 95% of drivers, owner operators, lease operators don't know what their costs are. You know, that's funny. I was looking at a situation. There was a Facebook post. I jumped on a plane today, and I was looking at it. And the original posters made a comment about their cost per mile or something. And you know, there was, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 comments, and nobody was answering the question. I mean, they were all making like smart aleck comments, right? And then the question was, how can you reduce your cost per mile? That was the question. And the comments were like, there was like 2 or 3 guys that said, well, I run slower. And then everybody else was, you know, just really sarcastic answers, some of which were funny, right? Some of which were funny. I'll give those guys credit. But I sort of couldn't help but wonder, were they not answering the question because they really didn't know the answer to the question? And that's like a really basic question, right? So when you talk about cost per mile, you know, how do you reduce your cost per mile? Well, yeah, running slower is a big piece of it. Watching where you fuel, that's another really big piece of it, right? Fuel is going to be your biggest cost. And so you manage that, right? But before you guys ever start worrying about fuel, the easiest way that you can control your costs, your cost per mile, is the decision that you're going to make in buying the truck and the trailer. The decision that you're going to make on what are you going to settle on for insurance, how much you're going to pay for that, right? Because you know those are pretty big components. As we talked the other night about, as we sort of rattled off costs. If somebody remembers better than me, let me know. I think what we sort of talked about was, actually I think I still have it. Let me see if I can pull it up. The salary was like 60 cents a mile. This was based on 100,000 miles, right? Here it is right here. On 100,000 miles, if you want to pay yourself $60,000 at the end of that year, W-2 60,000, that's going to be 60 cents. Fuel's going to be 40 cents. These are really solid averages. Maintenance was 15 cents. Insurance was 18 cents. Tractor was 24 cents. Trailer was 18 cents. And we're missing a few other things like washouts and tolls and some of those things. But as we discussed in that video, maintenance is probably a little bit shy, a little bit light at 15 cents. Insurance could easily be shy. I mean, some of these guys you talk to, they're paying $35,000 for insurance. So, you know, you have a huge opportunity to to reduce your cost per mile before you ever shift one gear and roll 1 mile. And I think a lot of guys don't contemplate that. And look, we're humans, right? We all want nice trucks and brand new trucks and trailers and whatever else, right? But man, oh man, if you are waiting till February and you don't have a dispatching service that you're paying money, you're paying them a percentage to book your loads, and they ask you the question, what's your cost per mile? And your answer is, well, I need like 6,000 in revenue. That's not the question, right? That's not the question. What's your cost per mile? So, you know, man, it's one of those situations where you guys got to really pay attention. You guys got to know that. I mean, you do. It's no different than that other live feed that some of you guys were in there, where I was just throwing money away on the poker table, and couldn't even see the cards, right? And that's how ridiculous it is, and that's how so many people are running our business. So when the argument comes to cheap freight, I've mentioned this, right? You shouldn't bag on somebody that takes cheaper freight or even significantly cheaper freight than you. You shouldn't bag on them, especially if they've made really quality business decisions on what truck they're going to buy, what trailer they're going to buy, and they're running a really tight ship for their business. You had the same opportunity, right? You had the same choice to make diligent decisions, and some maybe you didn't. But in cases like this, these guys are still running profitable. But man, there's a really big problem in our industry. And so if you want to talk about cheap freight, and why guys are taking such cheap freight, I'm telling you, 95% of the people that I talk to don't know what their cost per mile is, or they're reaching out to have the conversation and they sort of say, look, I don't know what it is, but I know that it's important. I need to do it, right? And so hats off to all of you individuals that do that, whether it's reaching out to me or anybody else, right, to try to figure that out. Hats off to you. But if you wonder why rates in our industry are so stinking cheap, and guys are talking about shutting down and striking and all this sort of stuff, that's not, I mean, that might help sort of short term, but long term, you know, we have a chronic problem, and the chronic problem is that we have a lot of people getting into business with just by signing their name on stuff, and they have no clue how to run that business. They have no clue what their costs are, and those are the people that are just running around taking, you know, ridiculous rates because, you know, they think they can make money on it. All those people are doing is running and trying to grab loads. They're trying to grab the best paying load dollar-wise on a load board because they have a payment to make. And that's how a lot of our peers are running their business, and that is really sad. Honestly, that is really sad. I'm not trying to look. You know, this comes across as like really derogatory. I'm not trying to be derogatory. I guess it's really more of me just like preaching again, because as I talk to this, you know, this individual, and you know, it's so prevalent. Like to me, I guess I expect it, because that's sort of the whole point of this channel is we have these conversations. So it doesn't surprise me, but when I hear, you know, some other business that calls and says, hey, we're facing the same thing, but it's 100%. Like nobody knows their cost per mile. 100%. And it's not 100% of 2 trucks, it's like 100% of 20 trucks. And that's really scary. It's scary not just for those individuals, it's scary for all of us in the industry, because we're having to compete against people that have no clue what they're doing. I don't know how you change that. I have no idea, man. I have no idea how you change that. Little Viking, Pigtail, Mark, how's it going? Thomas, Big Rich. Zach, how's it going? Jonathan, Bearden's here, man. Yeah, so I don't know what was up with the other 2 live feeds. Go to bed. Short hop. Let's see. One way to pull 7K this time of year is to own 2 trucks. Yeah, for sure, man. Your trucker Chuck says his truck froze up on the highway. Patrol stayed good, man. I'm glad that has to be a pretty uncomfortable. That's got to be a pretty scary situation. Like, when are they going to get there? You know, because if you're in really bad shape, it's not like they can drive 100 right up there in some of those roads. 38 cents fuel, 30 cents PM truck payment, etc. I want $1 for me. It's $1.68, right? PM. I don't know what PM. What's PM? 30 PM. So look, I'll just kind of rattle these off again, right? So you got fuel, you got salary, you got maintenance, you got insurance, you got tractor payment, you got trailer payment, and then you're gonna have, and those are sort of your big uglies, right? That's your big uglies. You know, then you've got the smaller things that really begin to add up, like tolls, like trailer washouts. I mean, I booked some potato loads here. It was a week or 2 ago. I booked a potato load, and I talked to the broker, and they said we'll pay for the washout. There's a washout before that, and I said I'm not nearly as concerned about the washout on the front end as I am on the back end. And he kind of chuckled. He said, well, I'll cover that too. He said, I think he said, keep it under $150 or something like that, right? So, you know, that's just knowing the business, right? We've hauled potatoes before, and we know what can happen. And when we're hauling bulk, a lot of those potatoes can get wedged down in those, in the slots on the floor. And that's a pain in the butt, man. That's an expensive washout, and it's time consuming. And so that's just kind of knowing the business. But you know, you sort of have tolls, and you've got, you know, your any fines, any penalties, right? You might have just all those other little things that add up to several thousand, you know, dollars a year. So you want to track those as well. Yeah. But yeah. Good evening, Scott the Group. How's it going, Brent? Yeah, a lot of people. I'm back in Phoenix. I got off the plane today wearing this hoodie, and I was like, wow, I don't need a hoodie. Nogales is nice, yeah, no doubt, right? Sam, you're on your way to Harrisburg, PA. Man, then heading over to Spokane, Fond du Lac and Renton. Yeah, they're man, be careful. You're going to be going right across all the nasty stuff. Let's see. Hopefully it warms up so I can go the highway. Yeah, no doubt, right? Temps in Minnesota yesterday, wind chill minus 78 degrees. That's so hard to get your head around. That's so hard to get your head around. Although I think I don't know what I think I've been in minus. I was at where was I at? Somewhere in North Dakota. This has been a long time ago. It was like minus 50 or something like that. I think that's the coldest. And I don't know that I can really tell the difference between minus 50 and minus 20. I don't know that there was one. I feel like there would be a noticeable difference in minus 78. That's just great. As if we're not having enough problems, then I get a phone call. Anyways, minus 78. I don't know how that's insane. Short Op says trucking needs to go on strike, shut down, stop double and triple brokering. Yeah, I mean, there's some of that. There's for sure. There's plenty of that brokering, right, as well. Again, I mean, but it does. That solves the acute issue possibly. Again, the chronic issue that we face is we have a lot of people going into business that are behind the 8 ball and they don't understand it. And as we have talked many times on the channel. When you get into the lease op thing, if I were a carrier offering a lease operator service, I am far more profitable when guys are failing every year and a half or so, and I'm just turning those guys out of the truck. I'm taking all their maintenance fees. I'm calling it, relocating and all this sort of stuff. I'm going to put new tires on it and all that sort of jazz, right? I'm going to take all your stuff. I'm way more profitable when I put somebody in that truck during those 5 years 3 times. Way more profitable than I am having one guy in there more often than not. So I understand why companies wouldn't offer, to track their cost per mile for the lease op guys because they don't care. I mean, it is your business. And let's be honest, a lot of drivers are going into becoming the lease op because they want to be in charge of themselves. But man, it just makes me sad. So sad to hear that guys are running their business like that blindly. Education changes it. Well, Chris, look, education changes it. It's one thing to know it. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing to know that you don't know what your cost per mile is. That's education. At some point, you sort of have to apply that education and do something about it. I don't know. Speed kills your profit, no doubt, man. Light Bright, how's it going? Let's see, I'm one truck outfit and I've learned a lot from you. I can absolutely say I'll be fine in the next downturn. Oh, good for you, man. SRO Logistics, I'm a combination of CPM and cost per day. They're both very necessary. Absolutely, especially if you are a lease op and owner op, absolutely, right? You need to know both. You need to know both. Take care, Mark. We'll see you, man. Sergeant Ringo says there may be some aftermarket parts you can put on the truck to improve fuel mileage. And if it works, it may be worth the investment. Yeah, so we talked about that. I talked about that quite a bit on my first channel. Typically, and I'll just kind of touch on it here. I don't know if this will make sense to you guys. I don't want to go into a lot of detail on it, but essentially most of these aftermarket items, whether it's skirt or the tails or whatever their price point is, right? If it's $500 or $2,500, they're going to save about 1/3 of 1 gallon, right? So mile per gallon, 1/3 of 1 mile per gallon. And so typically what that means is these companies build these items and they price them so that the return on investment is usually in that 18 to 24 month time period. And so these things help. And yeah, if you're going to be in that business man, absolutely, right? Take every advantage that you can get, for sure. Isn't a low rate better than no rate? And so Wayne, Generally speaking, yes, right? So, but let's talk about that for just a minute. We'll spend a couple minutes on that. So we'll use Florida because that's always the easy example. And we'll use Florida actually this time of year. So if you run into Florida right now, let's just say that you get a good rate going in. Now that you're in there, right, you have two choices. You can take $1.10 coming out. And let's say that you got whatever, $2.30 going in. You can take $1.10 coming out. You can take that wherever, Atlanta, the Carolinas, Virginia, Mid-Atlantic. You can either take it all the way up to wherever you want, right? The other argument is guys say, I will not take $1 a mile freight. I will not take cheap freight, right? In this particular instance, I'm going to tell you, the numbers say, especially this time of year, you're better off to take that cheap freight to help pay your fuel out of there. Because where are you going to go? I think I have a load board up. Bear with me. Yeah, I got a load board up. Let's just, and again, all I'm going to throw you guys out is posted rates, right? So take that for a grain of salt. Posted rates don't necessarily mean anything. Let me throw in a couple. Let me just do a couple searches. Let's see what the rates, the posted rates. Let's see what those rates are looking like in Atlanta for tomorrow. So if you were to deadhead out of Florida, because you don't want to take $1.30 a mile coming out, the average rate per mile in Florida right now, but the average rate in Florida is $1,263. You know what? Actually, Georgia's not bad right now. There's some of these rates that are posted. I don't know if these are multi-stops or what. What I'm looking at is the average is about 400 miles on these runs. They're paying probably about $1.75 right now out of Atlanta. So not the worst place. Let's check North Carolina. Let's check, I don't know, Charlotte. So the argument here, right, is do I deadhead up and lose $600 to go grab a 450 mile run that's going to pay $1.80, right? I think even still then the answer is no, you take that shorter run. The only way that I think it makes sense is probably like when you look at last year, do I want to take $1.30 a mile and waste 4 hours getting loaded, a drive time of, whatever it is up to Atlanta, and then getting unloaded the next day? Do I want to do that, or do I just want to run and deadhead up and go catch a load that's going to pay me $2.50 out of Atlanta that's going to pay great, right? When you have a really good paying rate, yeah, it probably behooves you to deadhead. But right now at $1.80 or whatever, man, probably not. No, it doesn't. All right, it doesn't. Some pretty rough numbers out of Charlotte: $1.35, $1.21, $1.28. Here's one that pays $650 on 180 miles, $650 on 220 miles. These are probably all, actually, you know what? These are all posted by one broker, so it's going to be one load. But yeah, you're right. Typically, you are better off not to deadhead up out of there. Is there such thing as cheap freight, or is it people hauling cheap because they can? So it's both, right? I think, well, it is both, but I don't think on a percentage basis it's 50-50. I think the real issue, again, guys, is a situation where some people can haul $1.70 and be turning 50 cents a profit, right? Because they've got a paid off truck or a paid off truck and trailer, that sort of stuff, right? So the guy that hauls, $1.60 a mile freight, who's profiting 50-60 cents a mile, wow, great, good for them. Because again, if they've done this, if they've ran their business and set it up correctly, they've already got a salary factored into their cost per mile. So if their cost per mile is $1.20 and they've got $50,000 worth of salary in there, or $60,000, and now on top of that, they're taking a $1.60, $1.70 mile run, man, those guys are doing a heck of a job. They got no worries. For the guy that's got the fancy truck, the fancy trailer, or lots of chrome and all this other stuff, a really high cost of business. I'll share this story. I did a video the other night. It was what was it called? Something about a dream, or trucking. Is it a dream or a nightmare, or something like that? And that was the video that we had this conversation that we were just having. And we talked about these numbers. Those numbers that we just rattled off equate to $1.75 a mile cost. And that gives the driver $60,000. Again, I think maintenance is shy by about 8 to 10 or 15 cents. And insurance can be very subjective. So quite honestly, their cost per mile could be, closer to $1.90 or so, right? And I had an email from a gentleman, and I called him early the next morning, and we had about 15 or 20-minute conversation. And his email said, "Hey, listen, that video resonated with me so strongly." He said, "I don't know that I think I want to get out of my business." And he was a driver. He owned a truck, and he had 2 other trucks that ran underneath his numbers. And he said, "Man, I just don't know that I'm happy doing this." And I said, "Look, man, the point of that video was not like gloom and doom. That was not the point of the video." And he said, no, I get that. The fact of the matter is, I don't know that I'm happy doing this." And I said to him, "Well, look, man, the only person that can address that is, you and your family. But don't think that the sky is falling because the rates are bad. The rates are bad because this is cyclical and this happens every year, right?" And it sounds like he had a good enough, but he told me, he said, "Listen, your numbers were spot on to the T." He said, "My cost per mile is $1.80. He was honest, right? And he said, "I just don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if missing all the home time and all the family events, I don't know if that's worth it." And as we talked, we kind of kidded back and forth. It might not be right for him, but I said, "You know what? There are plenty of guys that love driving a truck, and they would do it every day until they're 80 if they could." And so it's it's not this industry is tough, and it's not a one size fits all. So that's what I'm saying. Some guys, they haul cheap freight because they don't know. They have no clue what their cost per mile is. Some guys haul cheap freight because it's still really profitable for them, right? And that's 2 totally different drivers that we have in this industry. And as I told you guys, if you're coming in late to this feed, 95% of the drivers I talk to don't know what their cost per mile is. The dispatching service that I spoke to tonight said they've got 20 trucks. Not a single one of their trucks knows what their cost per mile is. I read an article, it's probably been 2 years ago or so. I know a lot of people, they love Kevin Rutherford. Other people hate him. There's not much in between. But he said the same comment. He said probably 90+% of drivers don't know what their cost per mile is. You cannot be running a business effectively without knowing what your costs are. I mean, it's like whoever makes this baseball, right? They have to know how much it costs for this leather, for these threads, for all the twine inside, for the core. They have to know how much it costs for all the people to ship this stuff in, for them to take it, create this product, and then ship it out. They have to know to the penny how much this costs. If it costs them 75 cents to make this baseball, and they're selling them for anything less than that, they're losing money, right? We have a lot of drivers that have no clue what their business costs, and they're just guessing on their rates. The difference is, we're not talking about 75-cent baseballs. We're talking about, $150,000 to $200,000 trucks. A used older trailers. I mean, as cheap as $8,000 up to $80,000 trailers. We're talking fuel burns of thousands of dollars a week. I mean, this is a high cost business. It takes a lot of revenue to stay in business. So, what is JB's cost per mile if guaranteed 10 trucks year-round freight? Could you do it cheaper? Man, I'm not sure what you're asking there, Dan. What is you're asking JB Hunt's cost per mile? If guaranteed 10 trucks year-round freight, could you do it cheaper? I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. I apologize. Greg says, hopefully the market will fix some of these issues. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Greg, is hopefully the market puts a lot of these guys out of business. You know what I mean? I get it. John says, my truck and trailer are paid for, no bills. Took the Dave Ramsey course. Even if I take a cheaper rate, I'm still profitable. Low overhead is the key. Absolutely, that's what we're just talking about, right? I've never listened to Dave Ramsey, but in fact, I don't even know what his MO is, but I guess that's, now I know. You said you've also saved a lot of money. Life's good. John, you're one of those people I'm talking about, right? You made all those right decisions before you ever decided, to buy a truck, right? You made the right decisions. Trucking Mike, how's it going, Scott? I don't know. I am way, but God, I can't speak. So tired. I'm way behind. I'll try to jump down. Unfortunately, some people think they are correct in what they're doing, regardless of what you tell them. They're not open to... Scott, I don't know if you read my comment on that Facebook page. I did make a comment. I said, the sad thing is that most drivers don't know what their cost per mile is. I said, what's even worse is the individuals that think that they know what it is, but they're like way off the mark. And I don't know which one's worse, really. Well, no, I do. Actually, I don't. Both are really bad. Don't do either. All right, don't do either. Do you save enough to pay cash for the next tractor? I wouldn't, right? I wouldn't, unless you're getting like a real, unless you're getting sort of a, actually, even if I were getting a 50,000, I would not, I mean, I don't like giving financial advice. If it were me and I had enough money let's say I had $100,000 in cash, I probably would not go and let's say I found like a really awesome truck for 80 grand. I would not pay that truck off, right? I might put 40 grand down, right? 50 grand down and get a really cheap payment to make sure that I got a really low interest rate, right? I would probably do that. But I wouldn't burn all my cash putting in the business because there's too many bad things that can go wrong in this business, right? I want to make sure that I got plenty of cash reserves so that engine goes, turbo goes, whatever bad things happen, I can still easily make my truck and all my kind of fixed cost payments. And if I got to be put up in a hotel, whatever, I'm not going to go have to worry about buying ramen noodles so that I can make my payments, right? I'm going to go have nice dinners out. That's what I would, probably do. I wouldn't pay cash for it. Not all of it. Tails work when they're open. Swamp Girl says, what do you think about, I've seen a lot of lease programs. I'm not familiar with theirs. By and large, most lease programs are very much skewed towards guys like me, right? Carriers. I win. And I talked about that ad nauseum on my first channel. Unfortunately, that channel's gone, as is the content because I was an idiot. But typically the lease deals are really skewed in the favor of guys like me. What I would tell you is if you're going to do that, man, look for the best truck that you can get. And guys, this is the thing. Just be really patient. Be patient and make sure that you find the right truck. And do your homework. And if you've got the money, have a mechanic that you trust, or find a good mechanic and have them take a look at that truck before you guys sign paperwork. Right? The devil will always be in the details of the paperwork and the contracts. Make sure that you're not being taken advantage of on cents per mile for the truck or trailer. A lot of companies throw in trailers for free. Guys, you know that there's nothing free, right? I did a video that got shut out a lot a year or so ago. And that video sort of said, carriers are going to stack the game and the odds in their favor, right? And so it's your job to make sure that you find the most right lease. And so I haven't seen that one, so I can't really speak to it, Swamp Girl, but pay really close attention to your cost up front. SoCal, how's it going, man? Don't haul cheap freight. Brent says, when you take that load into Florida, I'll buy you dinner. That's worth a few hundreds of a cost per mile, no doubt. Look, guys, the rule of thumb, right? Anytime you're going to go into a bad area, and there's a lot of bad areas, as I think it was last night or night before last, I was talking about. Even during our 20 or so or 30 good weeks out of the year that we have a chance to make money, we still see a situation where there's going to be bad areas all around the country. And it shifts kind of week to week. And so you need to be aware of where those bad areas are, and you just got to know that you're going to take your backhaul in. What does that mean? That means, hang on one second. That means, you want to make sure you're getting a good rate going into those bad areas so that you're going to blend $2.50 a mile with whatever, $1.50 a mile coming out. You sort of blend those two rates in, and you're still turning pretty good numbers. Man, I don't know which one of my truck. Hang on a second. I got to look something up. I just got an alert. From, oh, that's not even our truck. Good. So I just got an alert that says there might have been a possible accident for one of our trucks, but that's it's not one of our trucks. So good. I mean, it's not good. I hope they're not an accident, but anyways. Snake Eye says Atlanta freight isn't as dead as Florida, but it's not pretty. Yeah. I mean, some of these rates, again, those are posted rates, and so I don't know if those are multi-stops or what. So again, use caution. Just because somebody sells you a new set of scalpels doesn't make you a surgeon. That's funny. Twin Trucker says, I just took a load into Atlanta. Got one heading to Illinois right now. Cool, heads up. Pay attention to that weather because it's really rough up there still. Logic, I'm new here. How's it going, man? Dan says 400 mile is a short haul rate. Depends if the load and unload takes 2 hours or 2 days. No doubt. 10 sandwiches. Another great video. Where are the curtains? I know. I did talk to Joe Harding tonight, and he said he was a little concerned when he heard my mom. I'll tell you guys, I told Harding, I said, you know, when my mom snapped that head around, I told her, I was like, hey mom, you know, Joe Harding was making fun of your curtains. She did the whole like, snap the head around, eyebrows raised, just like the look I used to get. And like I was sort of getting the trembles and the shakes. I was like, oh man. Stuart says, the problem is there are so many variables, you have to crunch the numbers and time involved and see if it's worth it. Then you can decide if it works for you. Man, that's so true. As we talk a lot about, cost per mile is really critical. Cost per day is really critical. When you get some of these runs, again, as we talked earlier in this video about that 5-day run, you know, the broker wanted to pay it as if it was a 1,500 mile run with a couple of bucks in there for stop pay. Really bad idea. That's just a horrible run. Let that guy keep it, right? So is freight really all that cheap, or is it just cheap where people want us to run? The freight rates seem just fine where the truck demand is. Yeah, it is, and that's why you got to position yourself in the right position, right part of the country, and that takes a lot of time. I mean, I spend a lot of time when I'm dispatching. I mean, all day. I'm usually sitting in front of my computer, looking at load boards, looking at sonar, looking at DAT at 6 in the morning before the boards open, and I'll spend an hour just, my phone's not ringing, hopefully, quiet, just doing my own research, determining where I want to go. And so when the boards start opening up, then I start making calls on the runs that are, you know, kind of on my top 10 list. Speaking of Harding, he's here. I know I'm way behind. Barb says, I've got a good friend. He can quote he can quote chapter and verse on poker hand odds. Does he know his cost per mile? No, he takes a good guess. It's so frustrating. Man, that is insane, right? Because if you understand the odds of poker, again, that's something that he's clearly passionate about. I don't know if I'm as good as that guy. I'm somewhat handy with that, but yeah, you would think that they would be so passionate about their business because they can make a lot more money. They can go play poker. Coach is in here, says the guys with low overhead are the ones that will survive in the downturns, no doubt. And I guess the question is, you know, I don't know if this is a downturn. I mean, this is typical, right? This is nothing new here, right? I mean, literally, this is like nothing to see here. Move along. I mean, this is nothing, right? Yeah, rates are low. Yeah, rates are like as low as they've been since 17. Okay. I mean, last year was an anomaly, and anybody that thought otherwise, you guys have been spending too much time in Colorado smoking the green stuff, right? Blue Shoe said, straight up, I'm not sure what you guys. Divorced, kids grown, company driver, stacking cash, love driving every day. Cool, Jim. Canadian Catastrophes, had vegetable soup for lunch, but now I'm wondering about dinner. Yeah, SoCal, I mean, there's just, you know, here's the thing, right? I can sit here and preach, SoCal can preach it, Jason, every Canal, everybody, anybody, Loshan, anybody with a channel can preach it all day long. But, you know, like I guess I'm coming on my soapbox and my rant tonight because it's like, it's such an important factor, and I just want people to be successful. Again, my dad grew up, for those that don't know the story, my dad grew up, he drove a truck for 37 years. So I've seen the ugliest side of trucking, right? My dad was gone a lot, and it sucks. And so for those of you that are leaving your wife or your kids or your husband, your spouse, and your family, whatever it is, and you're gonna go be away for whether it's a few days or a few months, I just want guys to I just want people to be as successful as they can. And that really starts with knowing, making the right decisions, knowing what your costs are per mile and per day. So, like I said, not trying to bag on anybody. It's just because I want people to be happy and successful. Benjamin Duke says, one big thing I see is a huge amount of people not comprehensive in money management. They spent their entire life doing debt management, and they've got no motivation to seek the information. I've probably told this story before. A good friend of mine, he and his wife are teachers. And so this has been several years back. They're the people that are just always in debt up to here. And they buy cars that they can't afford. They buy boats that they can't afford. They buy used jet skis that they shouldn't be buying because they can't afford them. And these things aren't running right. And then they got to put tons of money into them. I mean, there's just every bad decision. And they were teachers in Oklahoma, and they were in debt so much they decided they're going to move and go to Texas, where they're going to be paid significantly more as teachers. And so they borrowed money to move down there. That's how broke they were. All right. So I gave them money to move down there, and I actually helped them move. I flew down and I helped them unload, I guess. So while we were there, we went and had pizza and beer. And they said, look, this is our financial situation. Will you kind of help us kind of map out a plan so that we start saving money? And so we sat right there. I borrowed a pen from the waitress, and sat right there on a napkin, and we wrote it all out. And I don't remember the numbers now, but I do remember, I think they were going to, they each had $100 a week to just, all their bills and everything else. They had like $100 a week of just fun money to just blow on anything. And we'd already carved out like some other fun money, but this is like complete, just blow it on anything you want. Don't worry about it. $100 per person per week. They didn't have kids. They were single, or not, they were married, but no kids. And if they sort of stuck to that budget, I think they were going to save like 20 grand a year or something like that. And I said, look, you do this for a couple of years. I think it was actually more than that. Anyways, they were going to save like 100 grand over like 4 years. And they've never had like more than a couple $1,000s in their checking account. 2-3 weeks go by, I get a phone call. And they said, hey man, how's it going? It's going good, man. How are you guys doing? How's the new place? Right, blah, blah, blah. Now, can you hear us okay? They sounded like I did earlier, right? Can you guys hear me okay? And I'm like, yeah, why? Why do you ask? And they're like, oh, well, we got a new truck. And we're on the Bluetooth. We was like curious how it sounded. And I was like, I was thinking back, I was like, I don't remember a new truck on the napkin. Like that wasn't in the plan. SoCal is only getting $5 a mile. Shut up, SoCal. You and your high-paying port freight. Barb says, oh yeah, sorry, Barb, read your comment already. Alice says, yeah, thank you, Alice. He should know better than to make fun of a woman's curtains. How about the whole, I have no clue what you're talking about. Vincent, no idea who that is. Would I put a new owner-operator on with Step Deck? We don't run Step Deck. We run van and reefer. I can answer a lot of questions about van and reefer. Anything besides that, you wouldn't want my advice as far as Step Deck and that kind of stuff. Blue Shoe talks about negotiating, man. No doubt, right? Oh, Blue Shoe, aka TJ Jones. Sorry. Yeah, negotiating is a big piece of this, guys. I look at the averages and the rates and that sort of stuff, and I also apply, the timing on it, the cost on it. I apply the weather. I apply, what we're hauling, where we're hauling. Here's a quick little factoid. I heard this 2 or 3 days ago from somebody. If you're hauling produce out of Mexico, coming up out of Mexico, if you're delivering something down to the border, that is relying on a truck to come across the border to pick it up, Monday is the Mexican holiday, right? So, you know, I'm trying to avoid sending guys down to the border right now because I know things are going to be backed up. We're not going to get a load out of there Monday. So I'm looking at other options. So just know where you're going. Know what's up. Thor, what's happening? I didn't see Thor in here. If he's in here, how's it going, man? Bob Americana says, pro tip for Florida, I-4 corridor, backhaul recyclable cardboard to Macon. Oh, there you go. Alex is in here. My huge mistake, Barb, my huge mistake. So I don't know if it was this, no, it was the other video that froze up. I was playing poker and I took one of these sticky notes and I just covered up the cards. I was just betting blindly. And the whole point was, you know, I have no clue what I'm betting on. I can see my 2 cards, but I have no idea what the other cards are. So that was my big mistake, right? And that's sort of how a lot of guys are running their business. They have no clue what their costs are. They have no clue what hand they're playing. They're just throwing chips in and they hope that it pays off for them when they get done with the game. All right, sometimes the game doesn't last long and sometimes they can string it out. I had 2 other live feeds, both crapped out. So here's the third one of the night. Snake Eyes says, if you'll run anywhere to get good rates, if this is a poker game, you've got a great hand or at least a hand with lots of outs. Oklahoma, Scott. That deer's Disco. That's Disco. Arles, I'm 20 plus years missing the boat, but I listen most exclusively to Kenny Rogers. Does this make me less of a trucker? No, man, not at all. Who doesn't love Kenny Rogers? The rates are pretty rough, Alex, in some areas, but you know, I mean, honestly, we've been really fortunate. We've taken a couple. Man, honestly, I can only think of 2 rates that I would say. I would only say 1 rate that was bad. There's probably another one in there that I'm forgetting, or maybe 2. But you know, 95% of the runs that we've been taking. In fact, Patricia told me today. I asked her. I said, "Hey, since for the past couple of weeks, how am I doing?" And she started kicking me. She started kicking me a little bit because she was making fun because we had a driver that had to go to a doctor's appointment. And so I made a decision. It wasn't a particularly great decision, but it was the right decision. I took him out and I sent him down to South Carolina, and that was not a good place to go either. And then I just said, screw it. So I took him on a really bad rate all the way across the country. I just wanted to be done with it. And so that person has negatively impacted the numbers, but even with all that fiasco, and again, all those were the most right decisions for the circumstance, if that makes sense. In any event, it's a situation where we're still, I think she said I was averaging 212 on all miles. So that includes all my deadhead and everything. So that's good. Aaron, my live feed connection sucks. I don't know what's up. It's got to be the app, because I literally have nothing else going on my Wi-Fi. Snake Guy says, I subbed again, don't know what happens. No worries. John, how's it going? I don't know. Refresh your screen. All right, yeah, hit. William says, sure glad I didn't pull the trigger on buying a truck, right? I've been having some of those conversations lately, William. You know, I felt like back around August and September when stuff was really, things were different back then. I was noticing as I was looking at some of the load boards, I was looking at some of the rates and some of the runs. Things just felt different for some reason for me. And it turned out that things were pretty sketchy. We had a few good areas and a few good spots, but things have been sketchy for several months, in my opinion. Not that they've been bad, it just felt different. It seemed different. Can anyone tell me how these guys can afford to run 75 miles an hour with these rates? No, I cannot. Yeah, you know what I can tell you? I can tell you what happens there. I can answer this. How many times have we heard this, or how many times have you guys heard this at the truck stop? No, I run 75 miles an hour so that I can catch another load on my 70. So I'm going to run faster so that I can get another $1,000 or whatever this week. We tested that out. We tested that. Our trucks run 72. We tested this, albeit it was in 2015 when we did this. I thought, let's try it. Let's see if we catch another run. Does it behoove to run faster? So we tested it for a couple weeks. And it turns out it was a really horrible idea, because here's what happened. One, we were guaranteed 100% that we were going to spend that money on fuel, but we were not at all guaranteed that we were going to get an extra run. And what that means is, obviously, we're spending the fuel for the whole week, hoping to capture that next run. But what ends up happening is, sometimes because we have a breakdown or a flat tire, or we have a long load or a long unload, and we don't end up capturing that run, but we've already spent all the money. So it doesn't make sense. But you'll still hear that to this day. You guys are going to say, I'm going to run faster so that I can get another run in. And the numbers say that's not the case. Kenny Rogers, 1980, was trucker approved. Cool. All right, hey, we're almost at an hour. Sounds like my connection's bad, so let's kill it. I hope this was helpful. If you're somebody that doesn't know your cost per mile, don't fret, because you can call an accountant. I'm sure there are plenty of trucking accountants. I wish I knew one, where you guys can pay them a few $100s and have that done. I literally asked this question. I literally had a conversation, I think it was 2 days ago. I asked somebody in the office, I said, can I just charge $50 a month to drivers? And can we track their cost per mile? Like, can we get their cost and put it into our spreadsheet solely for them? Can we do that for $50 a month? And the person said, yes, I think we can do that for $50 a month, but that seems kind of high. And I said, well, here's the whole point. The whole point is that they can shoot me an email or pick up the phone and call me and say, hey, what can I do to be more profitable? And so if it's in my spreadsheet, which is my language that I already know, I can look at your numbers just like I look at our guys' numbers. And in 30 seconds, I can say, we're running too fast. Our deadhead is too high. I can look at it for 30 seconds and say, here's the problem, right? Because there's this massive amount of data going into it. Vincent was MIA, totally off the radar since his last public appearance in '89. I have no clue what the heck you were talking about. Eamon, take care, buddy. Snake Guy says, Alex, Exec and I are going to be our big Kenny Rogers fans. Brent says, I've emailed you my cost per mile spreadsheet. I whipped it up for a starting point, open and constructed. Did you send it just now? I got a couple emails. Send it again. I've gotten a lot in the last couple weeks. Send it again, and because I don't know if I remember seeing that. Hopefully I did. Cool. Hey, I'll let you guys get out of here. Crummy weather up north. You guys be safe as always. I just sent it 5 minutes ago. thetruckingexec@gmail.com. I do not have it, Brent. I just checked. Let me double check before I kill the feed. I do have it. Stand corrected.